So today we are starting our sample board series. This is going to be a new program that we're putting together. Each day we're going to go through and make one video. We're going to show you how to make some quick, easy, beautiful samples that are going to help you out with your sales inside the home as you build your new business. Today we're going to do a black marble. This is just one version of black marble. You can do a black marble about 100 different ways, but today's version is very simple. This is on request from one of my guys in Kentucky. He's got a customer that is looking for a black marble with a very subtle gunmetal vein with just a touch of gold. So we're going to show you how to do this today. All right. So my favorite way to spread the epoxy once I dump it out of whatever container you're using is just using my hands to spread it out. So I want to get it flowing over every side, every angle. Try to get it as evenly distributed as I can. A piece of debris in there. Another good thing by using your hands is if you get any debris either in your cup, in your epoxy, or on your board, it's going to allow you to feel it as you're spreading that epoxy out, so you can go ahead and get it out of there. So once I have everything coated, I like to layer my gloves. So now I can just peel this glove off and I don't have to take the time to clean my hands, and I still have a glove on my hand to go on to my artwork. So black is a little bit different than white. With white, whenever you're putting your veins in white, you want to be very sparing with your epoxy of your vein color because it's going to expand into the white. In black has a tendency to swallow your color, so you want to be a little bit more liberal with the way that you apply your veining into the black. So in white, you're going to see me most of the time, I'm going to take the stick and I'm going to draw it out. Not really draw it out, but just lay it out with a stick, okay? Because that's plenty of color for white. And with black, I'm actually going to pour it in so I can get just more volume of color. Okay, and we're going to stair step this off to create a little fracture. And we're going to create a little bit of an effect. Okay, so now, just like in the white, I want to just add just very subtle bits of color out into the field. So I'm going to get a little bit on my stick, and I'm going to shake my stick just to get some drips and drops to fall off out into the field. You don't want this to be over dominant. All this is doing is going to give you just a little bit of movement, a little bit of subtle effect out in the main field away from your veins, and just tie it all together nicely. Okay, so real quickly, I'm going to take this stick out of my epoxy. I'm going to wipe it off to get all the excess epoxy off. I'm actually going to stack black spray paint, white spray paint, and then a very small amount of gold metallic spray paint. You always want to spray your stick below grade, just like we teach you in class. You don't want to get overspray onto the sample. You may say, why are you putting black spray paint onto a black sample? You're not really going to see it. And that is true and not true all at the same time. The black spray paint stays very topical. So it floats to the very top of the surface of the epoxy. So it is, even though it is black just like the base epoxy, it is going to give us a slightly different effect by the time we put all of our colors in and we add our isopropyl. It's going to change a little bit. We're going to take a little bit of white and we're going to do the same thing as we did with the black, but we're going to drop off some smaller amounts because we don't want a whole lot of this. They're trying to keep this subtle. So just dropping off a few spots. Oh, that's a big spot. That's okay. Show you how to blend that in. Okay, that's plenty. as far as that goes. So before I add my gold, I like to go ahead and spread out my other colors, make sure I have everything laid out the way I want. Because with the gold, there's a very specific way to get your best effects. Put it in late and move just the gold where you want it, and then hit it with your isopropyl and leave it alone. So we're gonna go ahead, take our stick, we're gonna start in our vein, and I'm just gonna move my stick through this vein until I get the effects that I want. I'm dragging that white. It's going to be very, very subtle. We've just put a very small amount of white into this vein. The main thing is to be random with the way you move the epoxy inside of this vein. You just don't want to get any kind of pattern to it. Everything needs to be, you need some short strokes, some long strokes. And then we're going to come out here into the field, and we're just going to blend in all these little drops that we put out here. We're going to get these working just like very small, light representations of what this vein is. You can always add more, but you can't really take it back away. So always start light. And if you really just want to add, say you wanted to add some more white spray paint to this to make it a little more prominent, or if you wanted to add a little bit more of the gunmetal metallic into the vein or out into the field, this would be the point that you would want to do that. Right now, I'm pretty happy with the way this is looking. So I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of the gold. We're going to do the gold very much like we did the white. We want to use it kind of sparingly. We're going to drop off a few small spots. Then we're going to do a bigger spot. Okay, and I'm just going to put a tiny little guy. I just want a couple of those out in the field just to tie it all together. So now you can see as we've put the metallic gold in, it's really drawing back on itself. So you want to take your stick, and the more the merrier as far as how you move your metallic spray paints. The more you move it, the more natural it's going to look once everything settles and is done. Okay, you may say, oh, you're burying it, but I promise you it's going to float back to the surface. You'll see once this is done. This is going to be a very subtle black marble, very easily sellable. Just have a nice elegant look to it. And this gold is just going to give it a little bit of pop. So when you walk around this, it's going to catch your eye because it's going to have a little bit of reflection to it. Okay. So before you move on away from using your stick or adding your color, you want to do a quick assessment. Like if I wanted to add a little bit of white, like I don't think it would hurt to add a little bit more white, say up in here, just to get us a little bit more contrast. All right. Always be careful when you add color like that. Before you take your stick back through it, wipe the excess paint that you don't want in your epoxy back off your stick. I'm just going to work that in. And you can do as much extra or as little extra as you want to. Okay. So before you move to your isopropyl alcohol, you want to do an assessment of your piece, whether it's a countertop or a sample board. Make sure nothing looks unnatural to you. Make sure you don't see any lines like you had your hand in it over here and picked up your hand and drug epoxy across one of your veins, all that kind of stuff you would like to address before you add your isopropyl. So once you're happy, you see everything, like your veins laying out kind of the way you want to, then you're just going to take your 91% isopropyl alcohol. We're going to barely hit the trigger. By barely hitting the trigger, that's going to give us some very fine drops and some large drops. I don't know if that's picking up on the, are you getting that on there? Okay, so you're just barely pulsing the trigger. That's going to give us small and large drops. You want that variation. Okay, so what the isopropyl alcohol does is it fractures the color. Without putting the isopropyl in there, you can kind of tell where we took the stick and manipulated our color. By putting the isopropyl on there, it fractures all those lines. And even though the isopropyl is going to evaporate and it's going to go away, the lines are never going to come back perfectly together. They're going to remain fractured. So it just gives it a more natural appearance, and that's always what we're going for. We're always looking for natural stone. That's what we want. So one thing I don't like about this board right now, see this heavy, it almost looks like a dot from where we put our product in. So I'm going to go ahead and take my stick. I'm going to work that in a little bit more. And anytime you do that post isopropyl, always just hit it again, just to make sure that you don't have straight lines along with all of your fractured lines. But this is just very, very subtle, very, very clean. And this is for our guy Steve in Kentucky. So Steve, I hope this works out well for you. I hope you get that sale. Obviously you can adjust your color. This is black with gunmetal. If you wanted your vein to be a little bit brighter, you could obviously go down to either titanium or silver. But this was the request. They wanted it to be very, very muted and very subtle, just a very elegant look. So you can adjust your color as you need to, but it took us about 3 minutes to make this, the sample board, and you should be able to make a sale all day long off of this piece. So we'll see you again tomorrow.